Only in America can you pursue mushrooms to make a living. Yep. Only in America, the pursuit of happiness. Remember that. All right. We are past the halfway mark for high school football season, and with the postseason play less than a month away. In the PSAL Championship division this week, Curtis High School and Erasmus Hall are tied for first. Meanwhile, in the on and off again coaching career for Bruce Eugene has a mind of its own. Will he coach Grand Street campus football team this week, or is it possible he'll never coach again at this level? Well, your guess is as good as mine, and maybe my guess have a clue. Joining me in the studio today is sports editor for the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, Laura Amato. Welcome back, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
And also an old friend from News 12 Varsity, Elio Velez.
Great to be back.
I know you guys changed your name, so I'm used to the old name, but we don't even go to the old name, right? Yeah, we ain't gonna do
Still
that.
doing the same thing.
It's the same thing. All right. You know, talk about the high school football season so far. You know, we've got the playoffs about 3 weeks away. But meanwhile, there were some big games last week. Curtis High School took on Lincoln High School, where they defeated them 32-28.
It was a big game. Laura and I were there, and it was like a championship-type atmosphere. I mean, Coney Island Friday night, great place to be. Both teams played very well. A lot of athletes in that game. You know, Lincoln, Naeem Coakley had a big day. You know, they took the lead a few times. There was 5 lead changes in this game, so it was always going to come down to the last second. But Curtis's Quincy Barnes, who only had 1 interception, he had thrown 2, found a way to throw his 4th touchdown pass of the game to win it. And I tell you, Curtis has really shown something with this win. Not always easy place to play. Sean O'Connor, you know, the coaching pedigree that they have. So I'd say Curtis right now is really done a good job so far this year.
It's tough for Lincoln to be too disappointed, though, because all things considered, they've lost to the only 2 teams who with undefeated records so far this season and held their own against Curtis. The Erasmus Hall game was a little bit more difficult. The problem is, though, Lincoln keeps beating itself. The loss at Erasmus Hall was because of a handful of penalties and flags. Whistles seemed to blow every 5 seconds. And the loss against Curtis was because they didn't really tackle very well. So it was just a lot of kind of mental breakdowns. So if Lincoln can fix that, I see no reason why they can't make a run here.
Especially during the playoffs. Anything.
Yeah.
They have a lot of talent, and you never discount what Sean O'Connor can do in the playoffs, how many championships he's won in this decade alone. So, I mean, they'll get better, and I think they'll learn from that game.
Okay, let's also look at the Tottenville game. Tottenville and Erasmus Hall. Erasmus Hall defeated Tottenville 42-35.
It was a shootout, but only because Erasmus Hall kind of took the pedal off the metal a little bit, or whatever that phrase is. They were 28-7. Tottenville came back in a furious comeback, but the star of that game was Aaron Cruikshank. This quarterback's done so well this year.
We got to talk about him. He's quite a talent. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's such a dual threat is the thing. And you know, Erasmus Hall has always been such a kind of ground and pound, we're going to run. But when we went to practice at the beginning of the season, weeks before first snap, the thing that they told us was they were trying to spread out the offense a little bit more. So they're going to keep running, they're going to keep the ball on the ground, but they also have that aerial attack that's going to kind of catch some teams off guard a little bit and move the ball a little easier.
He's a D1 player for sure. He's only a junior.
Only a junior. He's getting some high looks right now. I mean, you can't discount the Ohio State pipeline if you look at the guys that have come out of there lately. But he solidified that offense, and it's become better and better as the season goes along.
DeJory Addison.
With his health coming back, it just adds to the dimension of the offense. Andrew Howell did a good job the first few weeks, transferred from Curtis, ran for 100 yards a few times. But as that offense gets better, it'll help out that defense, which is just as athletic.
Where does this put Tottenville?
Oof. In a big-time game against South Shore on Friday night at Canarsie, that's where it puts Tottenville. I mean, it's interesting because they've shown sparks of what they can do, and obviously there's talent on that team. But the difference between the top of the city and the bottom here is.
Speaking of the top of the city and the bottom, let's pull up the standings right now. Let's see the city standings in the city conference division. We can take a look at that. We have Curtis over here. Curtis and Erasmus Hall tied. South Shore is in 2nd place.
We talk about that game, South Shore. Yeah. This is a big test for them. Tottenville coming to their place on a Friday night. You know, South Shore's done well, but they seem to always kind of, you know, Yeah, you never know with these. You never know with them. They're the dramatics. I mean, Jason Martin, they've done great things. I saw him on the road, beat him at JFK. They came back in the last second. But they have to come out with a big-time effort and see if they could prove themselves as one of those elite teams that, they've also think that they are.
And the school that keeps stealing the sunlight and the sunshine, no matter how these teams are playing. And these teams are playing real well. Curtis is playing well. Tottenham's playing well. Erasmus Hall, they're doing tremendous on the field. But off the field, man, you got to give it to Grand Street campus. Am I right? I mean, no one's beating them in the press. I mean, this past weekend, there was an article in the New York Times on Saturday. And as far as we know, they play tomorrow.
They do. They play tomorrow against Lincoln. That's a big game at Aviator.
Will Coach Bruce Eugene be on the sidelines tomorrow?
That's the $64 million question.
I mean, right? I mean, because last week there was a lot of drama. Explain what happened last weekend.
All right. So I went to the game on Saturday, and Bruce was under the impression that he was going to be able to coach. Right. Supreme Court order from Kings County saying that until his next court date, which is not until January 2017, end of the season, that he's able to coach, hold the position, everything. Exactly what you would think a coach would be able to do. Walks onto the field at Clinton with the team, is on the sidelines, is immediately approached by game security and told he can't be there. I spoke to Bruce during halftime, and basically what he told me was that school administration called the Department of Education, called the police officers that act as security at the game, and was told that he incited a riot at the Curtis game the weekend before.
You mean when they played Grand Street?
Yeah, when they played Grand Street, when Grand Street played at Curtis.
I attended that game. No, it was not a riot.
Yeah, no, that's what the parents told me. Apparently there was some sort of scuffle between the JV teams, and a parent told me Bruce wasn't even at that game. No. But that's what we were running with. And so Bruce watched the game from the stands. It's a mess. Like, there's not even another word for it. It's a disaster.
And it hasn't. I don't know when it's going to be resolved.
It was something, too, that our coach Gamadella from Curtis said. He said that Bruce is not from here, which he's from Louisiana. He played in New Orleans. And he does things differently, which is true. He's done some things differently. He's not from here. Is that being held against him because he's not from here?
See, now, but the thing is that Grand Street says they've let him go, but they have not disclosed the reasons why. Right. So we're still in a case of, is it this? Is it that? Could it be this? Could it be that? Yes, he has a kid who came from Long Island and has lived in his house, and he has some problems or some issues with administration or over transfer stuff, but we don't know the reason why, and Grand Street won't come out with the reason why.
That is the strangest thing. The Grand Street campus,
no one will talk.
When they didn't want to talk to me, I said, all right, fine, okay. But they didn't want to talk to the New York Times. I said, you know what, there's something here. Maybe they're hiding something.
There's so much speculation, and there's so many ways that it could go where both sides are in the wrong, and that's kind of where I'm leading, that there's miscues and mishandlings on both sides. But my problem is it has gotten so dramatic and so unnecessarily dramatic. This could have been resolved 3 weeks ago. Right. We could have moved on. We could have just said, Brian Ellis is the head coach of Grand Street, play the game, live your lives.
And the kids
could play the game and it would be fine.
And the kids are really, and the players are really suffering behind it.
It's ridiculous.
Because they don't know what to do week after week, day after day even, knowing that is it coach coming back or not, or moving on.
This article also goes into detail, and it goes into some other areas that maybe we've discussed. It goes into race. The fact is there are a lack of black coaches at this level in the PSAL. You have more black players, and you have more white coaches. Now, Staten Island, I know that for sure. There hasn't been a black coach in Staten Island since '82 because that was my coach, Charles Williams. Okay. And back then, and he was the last coach. Now, apparently, Curtis High School just hired a basketball coach, a black basketball coach, recently. So that's some progress. But there's all types of overtones, and I'm not saying it's totally on that. Right. Maybe it's because he's not from here. Maybe it's because he didn't play here. There's all types of variables in this story, but it's gone on too far.
It's too much. Like I was saying, this could have been resolved. We could have figured it out. There could have been some sort of discussion. At the end of the day, like I said, the kids are suffering. I mean, I talked to a couple of parents on Saturday who told me the kids just want the season to be over. That's your defending city champs coming out and saying we're done. Like, it's not fair. And I was really impressed with them on Saturday.
Sure.
I mean, Grant Street won 31-0. They played a phenomenal game, the best game of football I've seen them play all season. It's sad to see at this point that it's come to this.
Who are they playing tomorrow?
They're playing Lincoln. It's a big game for them. It's a big game for them. Every year, Grant Street wants to prove themselves against Lincoln and at Aviator Complex, so we could have another circus tomorrow.
Yeah, that's one thing you're guaranteed. And do you think Coach Eugene will be back next year?
I don't believe he will.
No.
After all this, it's been very emotional and very tough on him. I mean, that's just me talking and others, but it's I think it's been tough.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
All right. Thanks for coming, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank
Hope to see you again maybe during playoff time.
Right. Good to see you, bud.
All right, thank you.